Hello, my name is Alex, and today we'll discuss the project I did as part of graphics module. The target of the project was to select game genre and produce a scene in Unreal Engine 5 while utilizing industry practice. As Alter is a fan of Borderlands series and that ideological continuation in fate of Wonderlands, Alter decided to replicate the visual aesthetics of these games. As a small side note, Alter will use Borderlands and Wonderlands interchangeably and make the emphasis if particular game does matter. Some people love Borderlands because of the unique combination of fancy-looking outlines and comics-like rendering that sometimes is being referred as cel shader. However, it is wrong. According to Borderlands 3 and Unreal Engine 4 tech demo back in 2017, Borderlands does not use the cel shader at all, but rather a specific art style for the assets. However, developers still do asset outlining via Sobel filter. Additionally, much work is put into producing the correct textures with correct lighting, metallic, and other levels of breadth for producing cross-hatching effects. In general, cross-hatching might be highly customizable, for example via specifying the texture, alpha blending power, or applying different texture to different light intensities that will be discussed further. In the meanwhile, there are only few edge detection algorithms suitable for games. Even though there are a lot of edge detection methods themselves, most common edge detection techniques would be Sobel, Prevet, Char, Roberts, Laplacian, and Kenny. In most of the cases, Kenny would be the best choice, however, due to performance considerations, especially expensive high-steresis part, it is not suitable for games. Laplacian is known for being too sensitive to noise, same as Roberts, and producing the thick edges connecting multiple elements that would require to use expensive morphology operations. Additionally, Prevet is lacking center emphasis that may result in noisy output, so the only edge detection that would perform at the same level as Sobel or better is Char. In order to have controls over the outline for different objects, developers usually use custom depth buffer. However, in Borderlands and Wonderlands games, some game assets have different outline, for example echologs or pets. Fortunately, that Unreal Engine has a way of using custom central buffer that has 256 value depth buffer. Index of particular buffer can be used as a color by hue shifting. However, it doesn't produce a limitation of having a white color and black color, so additional parameters are necessary. Now back to the game. The key elements of the game besides shooting is taking damage. Borderlands utilize the idea of health and shields. When damage is dealt, a player for a small period of time sees a white offset representing a last acquired damage that slowly is fading away. It can be done in various ways, such as simply offsetting the sprites or a better approach of having the sliders with background texture refill based on the stats values by utilizing dynamic material instance. However, once the player is damaged, the changing health bar is not only thing that changes, but is also a damage indicator. Many FPS games such as Call of Duty and Counter-Strike use a simple 2D eyeball system. Others, such as Metro, uses HUD indication using masking and post-processing effects. Some, such as Overwatch and Titanfall 2, combine these. However, for Borderlands with flying enemies and non-flat level design, 2D HUD indicator was not enough. Developers ended up with adding a 3D arrow pointing to the damage origin. This approach was later used for Epic Legends. Because of the previously mentioned non-flat levels, the player's navigation plays the important factor. Even the game has a big map, Alter decided only to replicate the minimap. There are different ways how it might be done, such as having a static base map, having second cameras render the map, or a more performant approach to have a minimap as render texture. However, the key feature of the Wonderlands minimap is the changing color based on the height offset relative to the player position. The higher the element, the more orange it is, and the lower, the darker yellowish. Alter did not find any references of ways to implement it, so instead came up with own solution discussed further. Additionally, as Borderlands series are looter shooter games, they do have a lot of interactions with different items, such as opening walls, taking quests, possibility to destroy and do surroundings, and pressing the buttons and levers. In fact, it is usually done via line phase and box collision to be able to interact with the items more freely. Destruction of the items is an interesting one for the others personally. Alter still remembers the Battlefield 4 other destruction system called Evolution. The Unreal Engine before 4.27 provided an own way Apex of destructible meshes. Later, it was replaced with real-time chaos system. The Borderlands 3 used a hybrid approach of Apex engine simulated destruction and utilizing flash animations created in Houdini FX software based on the size of events. Finally, the shooter is not a shooter without guns, and of course, Borderlands 3 is well known for its 1 billion guns. Due to the project time limitation, the PCG guns, zoom VFX that change visuals when enemy inside would not be discussed. However, there are many ways to implement bullet tracers to impact the model flashes. The developers of Borderlands spent a lot of time optimizing the memory by having sub-UVs or frame and carrying out instruction count for material. At the same time, their gun model flashes does have layering of details that are randomly offset, scaled, rotated based on the damage type and elemental damage type. Due to the Alter lacking skills in producing fully custom textures and specific art style, Alter decided to implement 8-layer cel shader to achieve the similar aesthetics. Additionally, Alter had an idea of adding cross-hatching effect only to customizable range of pixel intensities while adjusting the intensity of other range values. To achieve that, Alter first extracted the white buffer by desaturating the original scene color as well as scene texture diffuse color node output. Scene texture base color can also be used. After that, Outer separated multiple levels of intensities and modified the value of particular level to achieve more tuner results. For low intensity, Outer, instead of applying the color tint, introduced a cross-hatching effect by coloring the texture in the world, and applied contrast after to have a control of how hard the effect should be. Finally, Outer just checks for static flags such as if it should be global or should use the depth buffer. To ensure a more broad use case, Outer included another switch determining if we do want to invert the depth buffer or not. Though for outline shader, Outer found an extensive guide explaining how to implement that in Unreal. The main idea is to detect the edge based on scene depth and edge detection filter. Additionally, the original outer of the shader discussed a fix for problems such as having extensive outline when grazing angle is low using Fresnel. Additionally, the guide introduced a way of control over the outline thickness by utilizing depth value and primitive linear equation. However, for more granular, scalable, and flexible setup, Outer introduced a way to use curved beta acid instead. Moreover, Outer added a way to have white and black colors while maintaining a fully working stencil buffer indices by utilizing switch parameters. Additionally, Outer again did implement a way to invert the custom depth value. After doing so, Outer added the possibility to detect all 8 surrounding mini-bursts and added prevent, sobel, and sharp edge detection filters. Again, to ensure scalability, Outer introduced the switch parameter that can be set up in a serial instance to determine the type of filter to use. After previously mentioned algorithms were implemented, Outer tweaked parameters that use the aesthetics in the best for each algorithm and saved them into different instances. For damage indication, Outer started with a 3D arrow implementation. The Outer used primitive vector algebra in order to determine the direction damage is coming from. Just before the spawn of the arrow object, Outer limits the radius where it can be spawned via exposed parameter. To polish the arrow behavior a bit and enhance player experience, Outer did add a check if player was the same direction as the arrow and if arrow changed direction too much, for example due to moving target. If any of these cases happen, then arrow is marked to be despawned in time, provided via another parameter. For 2D indicator, Outer found similar steady case and adapted the way of handling the rotation and vector size. Essentially what it does is move the pivot rotation point by using custom rotator and add nodes. Finally, the UV values are being converted into radial value based on provided rotation. By adding vector size, we overflow the segment area, and so by using floor, we mask out our segments. Then in order to remove inner part of the indication, Outer utilized custom shader node that marks circle in particular radius as 1 and distance gradient outside of it. Then enhance the power of the mask, and finally invert and merge acquired mask with previously calculated mask of segments. In order to reuse the same material asset for different types of damage, Outer uses switch node that is being manipulated via CUD instance. Health and shield UI was also done simply by creating a dynamic material instance with a few parameters exposed that masks out the correct part of the bar and colors it in appropriate color. The next challenge Outer attempted was the minimap. Outer used a render texture approach. Initially, Outer wanted to utilize the device depth render in general UI material to manipulate the color. It was done by subtracting the center value, player position, and trying to mask out values that are higher or lower than a particular boundary. However, the result appeared jittery and was difficult to mask out and color particular areas. At one point, Outer understood that there is an easier approach of using post-process material and capturing camera before it renders its output to the target texture. So Outer did utilize the post-process seed depth, and by simple subtraction was able to mask the height correctly. Then by using invert and contrast multiplication together, color the layers. Finally, just merge the layers by adding them together as they should sum to 1. To set the interaction possibility, Outer added a button that can be set up to be used one time only or infinite times. In implemented case, explosive barrels can be spawned indefinitely, while beloved companion cube only once. Additionally, to enhance the interactions a bit more, Outer added a cannon actor that uses grenade as projectile. Finally, Outer added the interactable hand quest that can be picked up and set up via data asset. The monster match and materials might be set up individually via asset as well. The glitchy visuals of quest item can be split into the following parts: flickering effect, glitch effect, vertex deformation, horizontal stripes, and texture-based fade in animation. Texture-based fade is done by upscaling the UV a lot and using the planner. The glitch effect uses multiple octaves of noise that can be manipulated, adjusted, or edited. Finally, for deformer, we combine our flickering position, vertex normal, and horizontal bar to make sure we want to deform the vertex, and finally scale it by distance parameter. One of the last things Outer did implement was destructible meshes. Even the Outer has an experience with hTiny, Outer decided to try out relatively new chaos live destruction system. For that, Outer did fracture explosive barrel and pallet levels, 2 for pallet, set a damage threshold, and set a time range before different pieces would start to disappear as it happens in Borderlands games. Terrain was populated with mythology and assets. Additionally, the Outer explored an approach of using vertex color for painting multi-layer materials. The advantage of such an approach is that it does require the asset to have more vertices and polygons as a result, so Outer is not sure if such techniques are being used in professional setup a lot. Grenades and explosives barrel scripts were created by others as well. They can do a chain reaction. Tina would be proud of me.
Yes! You did it.
As the other created data assets for guns, the metal flash asset field was added too. For some guns, it was done manually by adding a socket for guns, adjusting it, and in runtime just around the particle system. However, some guns already had pre-existing animations with stop events. For cases, Outer just spawns an actor with projectile movement component and cascade particle system. As for impact, Outer adds an impact force to the hit point and then spawns decals in the object based on hit normal. Additionally, Outer tried to use true first-person camera, so animations found in state machines was expanded and some cases were added or modified. For example, idle without gun. Slide angle based on pitch rotation was also added, what also introduced a pattern as near plane clipping. To mitigate this issue in Unreal, Outer used worst approach by increasing the collision radius of a player. Additionally, Outer added a simple check whenever a player can get up from a crouch state. However, based on moving state, the speed will be different. For example, crouch, jump, or hold shift. An additional challenge, Outer implemented fast parkour system to jump over thin objects or jump on top of thick ones. Check for a floor existing behind thin wall was also considered. As Outer took inspiration for Borderlands series, player can also just move forward, and if during full time the system spots a wall edge, it will get on it. At the end, parkour animations were found, but not added due to insufficient time. Plus, the enemies. The model animations pre-existed, however, Outer added animation blueprint with state machine. Additionally, sockets for weapons were added and custom animations events were created for damaging the player. Then Outer placed some weapon meshes in their hands. Also, Outer did write simple radius check for player to trigger player attack animation. Plus, Outer added a random chance of gold bar drop with applying some force to make it fly. Cross-hatching is a visual problem for scale textures, according to the Borderlands text demo talk. To mitigate the problem of scale textures and give them even more material flexibility, the developers utilized PCG approach for applying the cross-hatching texture. 3D arrow ideally should be transparent or semi-transparent, and using custom mesh instead of default arrow it is hard to see behind it, even if it has a short lifetime. Even the minimap camera was set up to capture all specific types of objects, it still captures all of tiny assets. Ideally, something like rendering layers or specific stencil bar per index should be utilized for masking out the assets that should be outlined in the minimap, such as terrain. However, Unreal does not have a rendering layers by default. Another easy and hacky way to fix near plane clipping is by scaling models of arms and weapons down in front of camera. However, professional fix would be either having another rendering layer specifically for gun and arms, or by implementing a material function that would scale all the vertices toward the camera. However, when Outer tried to implement a second approach, if actor with such material was not in the player hand, it would have a visual artifact. Parkour system with appropriate animations might add a lot of feel to the demonstration. For enemy AR, there are behavior trees that should be utilized instead. Take the shooting and animations. In original game, guns always shoot in the zero screen, however in current version the shooting happens from muzzle. Ideally, another arm model protection should be used, same as being used for first-person gameplay without body and gun. It will help to separate the multiplayer and client animation, as well as full body and gun animation. As the final one, as I said myself as a programmer, so even sometimes components and interfaces such as interactable, damageable were used, the code quality is not even close to being acceptable. Too many variable and classes, logic is chaotic, data assets were used incorrectly in terms of quest, as quest data should not be modified in runtime, but rather quest instance with all the data copies should be created. Animation that read data on update is not acceptable as well, event approach would work much better. And again, utilizing blueprints for everything and not C++ is not professional enough.